Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club Podcast, where every week me and Miss Boo sit down and talk about some movies. So let's talk about some movies. And Boo, this is your month to pick all the movies we watch in the heart of our mobster movie month.
Mob Movie March, yeah, that's correct. And again, I chose another film that I haven't seen. You've seen this movie before, right?
Yeah, so this movie, I think the last time I saw it, I was probably like 15. I don't even know, because I think I saw this when Netflix became a thing. Like when Netflix streaming first started, whenever it was on there the first time, I think that's when I saw it. And that's been many years.
Alright. Yeah, so this was brand new to me. I kind of wanted to incorporate some new movies and some of my favorites, so we're watching The Untouchables today, which this morning was technically the first time I've ever seen this movie, and it was a good movie.
I got a question for you. What did you think the movie was when you picked it? Because we're doing, mobster movies for the whole month, but this movie takes place on the other side of the law, as, like, we're following federal agents, law enforcement, things like that, and not gangsters.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see something a little bit different because we watched Once Upon a Time in America, and we see the gang being built from the ground up. And kind of coming into this movie, I was like, wait, that's it? There's no more story? It's like, I think I was so used to the 4 hours that we had in the first movie.
That is how good that movie is. It made you used to a 4-hour runtime.
I was like, wait, that's it? There's no more story? But yeah, I kind of wanted to go from seeing a gang being built to a gang in a different town running and operating during the same time, because this is about the same time as Once Upon a Time in America, and it's 1930, so they're still dealing with Prohibition. And it was interesting to kind of see it from the law's perspective, because in this movie, there's only a few good men in the law business, and the rest are kind of corrupt.
Yeah, I mean, because this movie we're following...
Oh my god, there's so many people in this movie. Sean Connery.
Kevin
Costner.
Robert De Niro. So, The Untouchables, and it follows the story of Eliot Ness, who's the famous lawman who...
is played by Kevin Costner.
Who builds up his own kind of police force to try and take down Al Capone, played by Robert De Niro, during the height of Prohibition. And it's loosely, the biggest air quotes America can provide, loosely based on true events.
Yeah, the story is kind of in the fantasy realm, because Eliot Ness and Al Capone never came face to face.
They never met. I don't think Eliot Ness ever fired a gun.
No.
Other than, like, police training. I think it's pretty well documented that he would go on patrol with an empty holster.
Yeah, he was very anti-gun. He would walk around at the sheriff's station with nothing in his holster. And it's kind of like, we see a little bit of that in this movie.
Yes, but we see it after he blows away like 5 dudes.
Yeah, so it goes from him being this, I don't believe in this, to the gunslinger.
Mm-hmm. And beyond that, the Untouchables in this movie, it's Eliot Ness and 3 other people.
Mm-hmm.
In real life, the Untouchables were like 10 dudes.
Yeah, it was a much bigger group of people, and I don't think any of them died. I mean, it was this whole thing with... I mean, if we're going to talk history, it was this whole thing with Capone where the Untouchables were, in fact, untouchable, because he knew if any of them died or got injured, he would be going to prison for assaulting or killing a federal officer.
Yeah, he knew he could buy people off for, like, bootlegging. He couldn't buy people off for, well, we gangland murdered, like, 4 federal agents because they were, pissing me off. Couldn't buy that one out.
No. So that's why in this movie, it's more fantasy, where it's like, well, yeah, of course they're going to come, face to face and want to fight in the middle of the hotel. But in reality, it was like, no, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to go get myself in trouble by offing one of these guys. So I'm telling all my guys, you see him, don't touch him, leave him alone. We don't need that kind of, business on us right now.
Yeah, and sorry we're kind of holding on to the real world history of this action crime drama.
Yeah.
But it's really weird because the history of it really feeds into the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it suspects that you know who Al Capone and Eliot Ness are. Because, like, I think people know who Al Capone is, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely permeated enough of culture. You've heard the name before. But Eliot Ness, if it were not for Tupac Shakur, I would have no idea what that name was involved in.
Yeah, I didn't know who Elliot Ness was before I watched this movie, and after I was like, okay, I did some research. I'm like, oh, okay, so there's his history. But yeah, everyone more or less knows Al Capone. And that was kind of one of the things that
Drew you in?
drew me in, but I was also a little disappointed that we didn't get a lot of Al Capone in the movie.
Yeah, Robert De Niro is playing Al Capone, and this is... I want to say this is that phase in De Niro's career in 1987 where we are firmly in De Niro not caring unless it's in a Scorsese movie.
Well,
I mean, or not
well-
that mean. I mean, he's chewing the scenery.
Well, he's, this is De Niro method acting. I mean, that was kind of what I found most interesting was doing the research about this movie. The fact that he was able to track down the original tailors of Al Capone and get suits made that were identical to his. He wore, like, silk boxers. I mean, he was really getting into the mentality of Al Capone and, embodying this character, which I liked, but I felt like we needed a lot more of Al Capone in the movie.
Because he's in 3-4 scenes, and I think all those scenes combined make up 20 minutes, maybe, of this 2-hour movie?
About, and I mean, one of them is historically accurate, which would be
The baseball scene?
The baseball scene, yeah. But I felt like we needed more, even though I know The Untouchables is supposed to be about The Untouchables. But it's just like, it felt like there needed to be more of a balance in between The Untouchables and Capone and his men.
You wanted the whole thing where we spend maybe not equal amount of time, but enough time to where we describe, okay, Capone is a threatening force, and he is in direct odds with them.
Everybody is in his pocket, and it's just kind of just to see how he has his grip on Chicago. And it's like, we really didn't. They kind of just keep him kind of in the shadows, like they talk about him. We get a glimpse of him.
Well, we do get a sense that he's one, we know he's dangerous.
Yeah.
We have a whole scene dedicated to showing that he's a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah.
And we do get a sense that he has everyone in his pocket, everybody talks about it, but it's really like the main menace is his, like, hitman.
Yeah.
That's killing everybody. Like, he doesn't really interact with the Untouchables directly and get in their way.
The hitman, I had to do research because I've seen him before.
Yes.
And it was driving me crazy. I know he's been in a lot of movies, but he was in the music video for Michael Jackson, You Rock My World. And
really?
That music video is kind of like set, like, it's almost like Smooth Criminal, where it's like gangsters.
It's supposed to look like a swingy gangster era.
Yeah, and in this music video, he's in it. He's one of, like, the lead bad guys. Michael Madsen's also in it. Oh my god, Marlon Brando is the mob boss in it.
The hell?
So I was kind of like, when I was watching this, I'm like, oh my god, this is You Rock My World, and I was thinking Smooth Criminal because he wears the white suit.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh wow, I was trying to figure out when did Smooth Criminal come out to kind of like piece it together. But it was interesting to see him as the hitman in this movie when I've only seen him in a music video. And I was like, he was really good.
Yeah, I believe the actor's name is Billy Drago.
Yeah.
Which, also, like, that's his real name. That man was born to play villains. But,
and apparently that was most of what he did in his acting life. He was the villain, and he did it really well.
He worked really well. He was the most intimidating presence in the film, more so than De Niro's Capone, which feels bad because De Niro is definitely going for a performance. He is trying. I think it's a thing where, it might be my thing where it's like, he feels like kind of hamming it up a little bit. He's really playing into the whole, like, hey guys, I'm Robert De Niro being Al Capone. Fucking, this is cool, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. But the real standout of this movie, and I think we can both agree on this, is Sir Sean Connery.
Absolutely.
Yes.
My favorite part of the movie.
A lot of people's.
And I love De Niro so much.
Yes. You are a De Niro apologist. Every De Niro performance has some merit.
But Sean Connery was amazing. And he was him. Like, this is Sean Connery being Sean Connery.
I mean, I don't think Sean Connery was as racist against Italians in real life.
Not racist, but badass.
Okay, you can say he's badass. But yes, because Sean Connery, he plays the Irish beat cop, Jin Malone, And
that talks with a Scottish accent.
I know it.
And the people get so mad, and it's like, that's Sean Connery. It's like, shut up.
Well, it's the same thing because I think the year before this he's in Highlander.
Yeah.
And he's playing the Spaniard, Ramirez, but he talks like this because of course it's Sean Connery. He will not attempt anything else.
It's Sean Connery. I don't care. I just want Sean Connery being the badass that he is. Funny. Him and Andy Garcia, who was playing
George Stone.
George Stone. And just seeing them, kind of fight when they first meet each other. And he was like, you know what? I like you. Okay, welcome to the team.
Yeah, because all the good character moments are with Sean Connery.
Yeah.
All the, dramatic elements, Sean Connery's in the scene.
Yeah.
The entire movie is basically Sean Connery being the Obi-Wan Kenobi to Kevin Costner's Eliot Ness. And, taking him under his wings, now I'm going to show you the Chicago way. And that's, and that's the whole movie. It's
Andy Garcia, George Stone is Han Solo.
Not everything is Star Wars, but that might be close. Wait a minute. Then what's the then what about Oscar, the accountant guy?
3PO?
Oh, you're just saying that because he's the nerd character. You absolute
He's
savage.
Smart.
You absolute savage.
He's smart. He knows things.
He's like, I count numbers and I know things. But that's that's the thing. Sean Connery is the true standout here,
Yeah.
right? He's by far the best actor in the movie.
Yeah, I'd be safe to say that. Even though everyone in this movie gives a really good performance, but Sean Connery was what stood out to us.
Yeah, I mean, your favorite moment with Connery, that really showcases why he won Best Supporting Actor for this.
Okay, yeah.
What's the Oscar moment?
Well, speaking of that was kind of surprising that this was the only movie that he won an Oscar from.
I think this was the only one he was nominated for.
That's why it was so weird with all the performances that he's put in, through his entire career. It was he just was nominated once, and I mean, he won the one time, but it was just he's done so much film-wise. How does this man not have more Oscars?
Well, going on this tangent, Sean Connery, to me, has always been an actor of iconography, right?
Yeah.
Because the movies, the movies you remember Sean Connery for, I'm going to assume are James Bond.
Yes.
And
The Last Crusade.
Okay, yeah, James Bond and Last Crusade, right?
Yeah.
Because all the movies he was in, past the 60s era Bond films, he kind of turned into this kind of role. He turned into supporting actor appearances. He wasn't really the lead, and if he was, it was kind of a played down role.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he had a huge, career. He was in a shit ton of movies in his whole career. And, yeah, he was, the best thing in most of them, but he was not... They were also not all Oscar movies.
Yeah.
I love Time Bandits. That wasn't going to win Best Picture. You love Last Crusade. That wasn't going to win Best Picture.
I know, but it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
But to go back to your original question... My favorite, the Academy Award winning scene that would have done it was when they're interrogating the guy in the cabin.
Oh, God.
And they have the guy that has been killed outside of the cabin, and Sean Connery, Malone, goes and picks him up and throws him against the glass, and very much dead, and he's, yelling at him, puts his gun in his mouth, he's like...
He's playing a performance to the guy, the accountant on the inside of the room where Eliot Ness is trying to get some info.
Yeah, Capone's accountant, one of his many accountants. And he won't, admit what's in the ledgers. So Malone goes, you know what, I'm gonna scare the shit out of this guy, so I'm gonna use this corpse, let him think he's still alive. And he puts on this performance where basically he blows the guy's head off because he counts down to 3. And he goes into the room and the guy's, please don't hurt me, I'll tell you whatever you want. And the Mountie, because this is happening in Canada, he's just like, I don't know how you do things in Chicago, but we don't do that here.
No, he says, I don't agree with your methods, Mr. Ness. And Ness says, you're not from Chicago. And they walk out. And he says it like that. You're not from Chicago. And they walk out. And I'm like,
I don't remember his accent being like that.
Nah, I've had the Mandela effect. I've inserted that memory where Kevin Costner speaks with the thickest Chicago accent you could think of.
Also, the Mounties were badass. We're watching this movie that takes place in Chicago. I'm like, we end up in Canada and just seeing the U.S. and the Canadians work to take down Capone's men,
Mhm.
because in the movie, one of the big conflicts is that Capone is getting whiskey from Canada, and it's just Ness trying to make sure that he could, intercept it and try to make sure that none of it gets on the streets, because he's, that's against the law. No one's drinking. None of my men are drinking.
Yeah, because that's who we get. Eliot Ness is the Boy Scout.
Yes.
And Malone is not so much the Boy Scout. He
He's
subscribes
the beat
to
cop.
He's the beat cop. He subscribes to the letter of the law, but he knows how the world works.
And he tells him, you need me to be your tutor, and, and Ness is like, well, how'd you find this out? And he's like, one thing about being a beat cop, you gotta learn how to keep a secret. And it's just like, yeah, he's seen it, he's done it, he's not a Boy Scout, but he
knows what's up.
He knows what's up.
Yeah, like, my favorite sequence with Malone, Sean Connery's character, is actually his death scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, leading up to it, right, the assassin's coming in, and he pulls out the shotgun, which was already established in the movie that he keeps in his record player, and runs him out, and then he gets ambushed.
That entire scene where he's just going about the house checking, every little thing. And you see the assassin kind of falling room to room, and he loses him, and here he is, messing with the record player, and he's, closing doors. And I was just like, damn it, all you had to do is shoot him in the house. But no.
He did not. He ran him off. He just sent a message, right?
Yeah.
He's like, go tell your boss, you failed. And then we see that the assassin, Nitty, blows him down with, like, a bunch of squibs. This is actually the first time in his career that Sean Connery had to have squib work done, where they put squibs on him.
Yeah.
And he said it was the worst experience as an actor he's ever had.
Well, I mean...
They put like 40 of them on.
Yeah, Nitty shot him like 50 times. And I was just like, my God. And then, you see him crawling his way back into the house.
And there's the Oscar clip when Ness shows up and he's holding him in his arms. And Malone is trying to, like, show him something. He's trying to get that last breath out. And you feel the weight. You feel him giving up, but you feel how strong he is as a character. That's the Oscar clip for me.
Yeah, and Ness hands him his St. Jude medallion, and he's like, not this. So he's like, I'm trying to get the paper that's right there. And Ness like, this paper? Like, well, what other paper? And even before he dies, he's still telling him, it's this and that, and then he goes. So it's like, that is Malone in this movie.
It's such a good, fun character. It really is. He really is the best part about the movie.
Yeah, he is.
But another part about this movie, which is good and surprising that it led to the success it did, is Kevin Costner as Eliot Ness.
He had done, acting before this, but this was, kind of his
This
jumping
is the break.
off. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Because after this, he started doing
because he
Dances
did
with Wolves, Prince of Thieves, or Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Waterworld, the bomb that was Waterworld.
Yeah, he was doing a ton of movies in the 90s. He's still in movies now, but this was the jumping point to get him to where he was in the 90s.
Yeah, and the 90s was like Kevin Costner was the superstar, right? But him in this movie, do you think he's great in this movie, or is he just turning in a pretty good Kevin Costner performance? Do you think?
No, I think he's good in this movie, but he's also playing the character who's a Boy Scout. So, we're seeing kind of him be straight-laced. It's not till after he loses 2 of his men that he kind of,
gets a little grit to him.
A little bit of grit. The tie comes undone, and at the very end of the movie where they ask him, hey, if they end Prohibition, what are you gonna do? Gonna have a drink. And it's just like seeing the two, the scale of where we meet him and where he ends.
It's just so interesting to me that it's like, this is the movie that launched him. Makes sense. It made a bunch of money, but I don't know. It feels like he's just turning in a pretty good performance. Like, I don't know. I think every time I see Kevin Costner, I'm like, this is a man who got so lucky.
No, he's a good actor.
No, he's fine. He's okay.
He
ain't Sean Connery.
not Sean Connery. I mean, no one's Sean
He
Connery
ain't,
except Sean
he
Connery.
ain't even Andy Garcia in this. I think Andy Garcia's does a better job.
I loved Andy Garcia in this movie, but granted, I love Andy Garcia, so I'm kind of biased in that.
Yes.
But, we grew up with Kevin Costner because we're 90s kids.
Mm.
But, yeah, it was interesting to see him, how he comes into this movie versus how he changes. I mean, we see his first kill in the movie and how he's kind of distraught but trying to hold it together because you still have gangsters that are shooting at you.
Yeah, it's a good arc in the movie. It just seems, I don't know, it might be a thing where it's just like I've always like had a thing like I could just, it's my own preconceived bias where it's just like I could never believe Costner. I just couldn't do it. I'm sorry.
Why do you look so suspicious? Like Costner has a secret or something.
I don't know. He just looks like a guy where I'm like, I don't know. I don't trust this man. I don't know why.
Oh my god.
It's my Costner bias coming to light. I don't know. Like
Dean has some weird quirks, guys.
I got a lot of them, but yeah, I think he's doing a good job. It's just a fascinating kind of thing to me because we talked about this before. Where, man, this movie is pretty good.
Yeah.
It made how much fucking money? Oh, wait, what the fuck?
It's a good movie. I mean, it's very different from Once Upon a Time in America. But, yeah, it's a good movie. It's a different way to see the mob life and Prohibition. Because most mob movies are in New York. This one, we're in Chicago.
And it's, yeah, but it's also barely a mob movie. We don't follow the gangsters. We're following the law.
And speaking of gangsters, I think we have to talk about the baseball scene.
You mean the best scene in the movie?
Yes.
The best scene by far.
Well, that and, the one at the cabin.
Yeah. But, yeah, because this is where Robert De Niro finally gets to act.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, now I get to own the scene.
It's not, us getting a brief glimpse of him or him going into the hotel or out of the hotel. I'm like, no, this is a scene with De Niro. He's not getting a shave and hardly talking.
So, Boo, since De Niro is your boy, you lay out the scene for us in fair Verona where our story sets.
I will, my Juliet. So, Capone's having a dinner with all his men. And historically, this is accurate, where it's this beautiful dinner party. Everyone's dressed up, white gloves, it's so fancy, and he's talking about baseball, the all-American pastime. And I'm just like, I know something wrong is gonna happen. I'm like, you just get that gut feeling. And he just lays into this guy's head, and, in true De Palma fashion, you got blood everywhere.
Mm.
You have that nice, craning scene from the table where you just see the guy slumped over, and the blood is just pooling onto the table. And I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, this is the scene where I was like, Capone's scary.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, up until this, we see Capone, in the lap of luxury and...
very jovial,
Yeah.
joking with the press. We don't see him being an intimidating force. And then the scene happens, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, he is dangerous.
Yes.
But that's the thing, where it's the only scene where, like, oh yeah, he's dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really hoping you ride that scene for the rest of the movie to fear Capone. Which, yeah, it kind of works, but... man, I really wish we had a few more like De Niro scenes in this. I think this movie could have been 2.5 hours. I think it would have been fine.
Yeah, we definitely needed more De Niro in this movie than we got, because we had only that one scary scene with him, but Nitty was the one that was scary throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
I mean, let alone, this being the first time I watched it, the little girl gets blown up like less than 5 minutes into the movie.
Yes.
And I'm like, are you kidding me?
I love that was the thing, because it literally is like the first fucking scene in the movie, and you were like, wait, no, and then it blows up, and you're like, I don't know if I want to watch the rest of this movie anymore.
I was just like, what are they gonna do next? I mean, that was enough to surprise me. I was just like, wow, you just did this little girl dirty who was in there to get stuff for her mom because she was sick.
Yeah, but it sets up that Chicago's a dangerous place.
And I thought, which was a really smart scene later in the movie, and it was so simple too, is when Nitty's parked across the street from Ness's house.
If you got a beautiful family, Ness.
Oh, is it your little girl's birthday? And it was just like, him kind of playing on, and then Ness kind of figures out, oh shit, he could have taken out my family, and
puts him in protection, and
we're having pleasantries here on the street. And I loved that kind of, like you were saying earlier, where De Palma kind of played on Hitchcock a little bit with the suspense.
Oh, he does that in all of his movies.
And we get that when Ness is running up the stairs and he opens up his daughter's bedroom and she's not in the bed. And I'm thinking, oh shit, he kidnapped her and he just sped away in the car, and then you pan over and she's coloring at her desk. I was just like, oh, like my heart, like...
Who's like, this movie is playing with my emotions.
I'm like, I just saw a little girl get blown up. I don't want to see another one get, kidnapped and murdered. I'm like, what is this movie trying to do to me?
But that's like I guess, let's talk about De Palma here, right?
Yeah.
Because Brian De Palma is one of these directors that I feel too many people forget about. Because he was in the same group of guys as like Spielberg and Scorsese and Lucas and all those guys. Coppola, all those guys. He's in the same group of them, right? And he doesn't really get the same recognition, even though he's made movies like Carrie, Blowout, Scarface. And I think that's so unjust. He was the first director to use Robert De Niro. They met in college. He gave him his first like film role. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why does no one talk about Brian De Palma anymore? And in this movie, he shows off. He has the long takes, especially the elevator one.
Yeah.
Where it
is so gruesome, too.
Oh, the elevator sequence is super gruesome, but it's all done in this one long take, and everything's a motivated move. And it's a thing where he is playing off a lot of Hitchcock, where, we set up that, there's something dangerous going to happen over here, and we're going to go away from it. And the audience is going to be like, but what's happening over there? I need to see what's going on over there. Is somebody dead? Oh shit, and it's the suspense build-up, and it's really well done.
Yeah.
Like, De Palma is one of the best Hitchcock mimics in cinema.
Yeah, and it's very well done in this movie. I mean, to kick it back to the elevator scene, just them realizing, Malone and Ness, that their other buddy's in trouble.
Yeah, because George is in the elevator because he's taking... the accountant or whatever, he's gonna take him to booking or questioning.
It's not George. It's
it's
the accountant.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Me too.
Oscar? Is that his name?
I think so.
Sure, we'll go with Oscar. So yeah, Oscar puts him into the elevator, and he's taking the accountant's taking to booking or whatever.
Yeah, he's taking Capone's accountant to booking, and we see that an officer is guiding them to booking, and you just know something bad's gonna happen.
And when they get into the elevator and that officer turns around and you see it's Nitty, the assassin, and the door closes, and we're like, well, but what's gonna happen? But the camera doesn't go in there. It follows Ness and Malone until we hear the gunshots. Then it goes back in.
But it does show him shooting the accountant point blank in the head.
Yeah.
And then I think it pans away when he shoots Oscar.
Yeah.
We find
the results of it.
Yeah. And it's just completely horrific, He kind of has Oscar, like, hanging up on the wall.
Yeah, and he, like, mounted him like an animal, and he wrote in blood, like, touchable on the wall. Yeah. And it's a really gruesome scene, but it's the halfway point that really motivates Ness, that, things are escalating. And that's a lot of what the movie is. It's Ness realizing things are continually escalating, things are getting more dangerous, and he has to basically go beyond what he originally set out to do, and that was, I will catch Al Capone by whatever means are legally available to me. And it's like, you're gonna have to go beyond that. Like, what are you willing to give to catch this guy? And that's the whole movie.
And we see, the corruption side of this movie. We see the chief of police who sees Nitty walking away in a police uniform while one of his men's been murdered and a suspect has been murdered, and he doesn't say anything. He just ignores it.
Because he's on the take.
He's on the take. So it's kind of sad to see that it's, I'm supposed to protect the city and the people of this, but my other boss is telling me I gotta look the other way.
Yeah, and that's the movie.
Well, we're missing one big scene.
One big scene.
The train station scene.
Oh, you mean the Odessa steps?
Yes.
Yeah. That sequence is a huge homage to a movie called Battleship Potemkin,
Mm-hmm.
where it uses a lot of montages on these steps, and the way De Palma does it is such like a masterwork because it's suspense. It's a scene that's so slow, but it's slow so it shows you everything that's going on, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds.
And then you incorporate a mother and her baby into this scene, because it'd be different if it was just these men on the steps having, a gunfight. But you've got a mom and her infant child trying to get out of this train station.
Trying to pull it up the stairs.
And Ness is the one that's like, well, ma'am, I'll help you, but, oh, my targets are here. Well, what do I do?
And it turns into a shootout. And it is a pretty good shootout. Like, whatever, like, bad things I have to say about the movie, the shootout is not one of them. The shootout's real good.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, popping guns, Stone, like, does a baseball slide, saves the baby, and he's still, like, shooting, and it turns into a hostage situation.
I mean, you've got the baby and the carriage rolling down these stone steps, and you're just like... And it's not like it's going fast, it's going slow.
Is the whole sequence in slow-mo?
It feels like they slowed down the film. It's just like, okay, what's gonna happen to the baby? Is a bullet gonna go through the carriage? Is the carriage gonna flip? And I thought it was interesting that the baby was actually the stunt person's son. And he was just like, you know what? I'm a professional and I trust my work, so I'll put my child in there. I know that my work is going to protect him in this scene.
He's probably like, don't worry, this will get my my infant son a SAG card. It'll be great.
Just don't tell his mom, okay? Like, pretend like this didn't happen.
And it is such a good sequence. That is probably the part of the movie where if you're gonna go back to watch it, like that's the part you want to watch. If any scene in isolation, that one's real good.
Yeah, because we see Capone's accountant early, and he's killed earlier in the film. But we have Capone's like close accountant who is being transported, and this is why the gunfight happens. And it's the whole thing of him being held hostage by one of Capone's men, where he's like, I'm gonna blow his brains. You're not gonna get any information. And the accountant's, if you save me, I will tell you anything you want.
Please, I don't want to get got.
And it's just this, kind of countdown. Are they going to be able to save this man? Or is he going to be killed and that's it?
And it's such a good dialogue and cat and mouse between them. And then Eliot Ness is like, George, you got him. You got him. And Andy Garcia, George Stone, is like, don't worry, Cap. Got him in my sights. And it's one of those things where now the payoff of Stone being an ace shot is finally happening.
Yeah,
and payoff, it's here, and
he does the shot while using his knee and his other arm to hold up the baby carriage, and he's like, got him, blows his head off, and like, damn, yeah, I called it Stone.
It's such a good sequence.
Yeah.
What else you want to hit on this movie? Anything else?
Well, I mean, I feel like we talked about just about everything that happened in this movie. I mean, I really wanted to see more of Capone and his gang.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I get it. We're talking about the Untouchables. We kind of have to see how they formed and how they became like a tight-knit group.
Yeah, my thing is, it's a good movie. It's a lot of action.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could have used maybe a few more like dialogue character stuff. Because like Eliot Ness is the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
But, I could have known a little bit more going on there. But
yeah, because I mean, we have the court scene, and I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, that's how the movie's gonna end. No, it ends up in another gun battle leading out of the court.
Does.
And I'm like, okay, like let's go. It's Ness versus Nitty, and they're running around, and they're up on top of the roofs, and I was just like, okay, I'm like, let's see. I'm like, he's gonna shoot him off the roof. No, wasn't expecting to see him shove him off the roof.
Nope.
And I was just like, holy shit.
Because that's the Chicago way.
That's the Chicago way. I didn't need my gun. I'm just gonna throw you off the roof.
Yeah, and overall, this is a good movie. This is a really good movie. I would recommend it, but it might not be everybody's cup of tea. That would probably be my only thing about it. If you're into kind of 90s actiony
80s.
80s actiony movies, this is definitely up for it. But yeah, Boo, any last words before we move on?
No, I think this is a really good movie. It's a different take on Prohibition. I'd recommend it. Give it a watch. It was very entertaining. Good pace, too. It didn't feel like it was...
It did not feel 2 hours.
Didn't feel 2 hours. It also didn't feel like it slowed in certain spots. Like, it kept going consistently. But speaking of De Palma...
Yes.
Our movie next week happens to also be by De Palma.
Ooh, another film by De Palma. Is it something we've name-dropped in this episode?
I believe so.
Oh. Is it Blowout?
It's not.
Damn it.
Next week, we're going to be talking about Scarface.
Ooh, Scarface. All right. I'm excited. I think the last time I saw Scarface was like 2 or 3 years ago. It was also like the first time I saw Scarface.
Yeah, I was really surprised when you told me you'd never seen it before.
It's like one of the only 2 movies that my parents were like, you're not going to watch fucking Scarface. You could watch everything else, but you're not going to watch fucking Scarface.
And I grew up with this movie, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it a
lot. But yeah, I'm excited.
As am I. It's a good movie. Lots of action.
Yes, and we're finally going to get away from De Niro. We're going to Pacino now.
We're going to Pacino, and we're also going to a different part of the country.
Yes, and if you wanted to join us, where can they go to find us?
Well, if you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.
Yeah, you can go to our YouTube channel, In the Frame. That's In the Frame on YouTube. Go, comment, subscribe, like, whatever you want to do. It's a lot of fun.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Film Club Podcast.
And with that, Boo,
we'll see you next week at The Film Club.
Have a good week, everybody.